Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 16 Pro has been out for a couple months at this point, and I wanted to go over 10 things I've noticed while I've actually used it. iPhone 16 Pro has been out for some time now, and I never did a full review on it as it's pretty similar to the iPhone 16 Pro Max. But I probably should have, as this is probably the perfect size phone for most people. It's really nice to hold on to, and the overall design just makes it a little bit nicer than what we had with previous phones. So if you're upgrading from an iPhone 14 or 13 with the squared off edges, this just feels a little bit nicer in your hand and a little more comfortable because it's less sharp on the edge. Now, of course, if you're using a case, that won't make much of a difference, but in general, the phone feels great when you're holding on to it. And with the design, it's very familiar. Of course, we've got all of our cameras here. We've got our action button and volume buttons. And then on the right-hand side, of course, Apple's added this new camera control. And I find that I don't really use it that much because, well, I press it to open the camera, but then when I use it, you can use it to sort of change things, zoom in or zoom out. But I find the overall experience is a little bit unrefined at this point, and then taking a photo with it, I find that I don't take great photos because sometimes this just shakes the phone. So if I frame the actual photo, then take a photo, it typically comes out better for me than if I try and do that with camera control as the camera moves or the phone moves as I'm trying to capture the camera or capture a photo with the camera. So in general, I find that the overall experience with camera control isn't great. Maybe it will get better in the future, but it's just not something that I think was necessarily the best idea, but I think it's nice to have, and some people love it, some people just don't use it at all, and of course you can turn it off if you don't want to at all. Now, of course, with the screen this year, we actually have a slightly larger display, and we have smaller bezels, and of course if you're protecting it with a screen protector, it's going to make a little difference there, and this one's actually had a screen protector on it the entire time. But I've found that the overall glass on the iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max hold up much better than previous generations. For example, with my iPhone 16 Pro Max, I don't have a single scratch on it. So if I turn the screen off here, you won't find a single scratch anywhere, and I haven't had a case or screen protector on it since new. So both of these have been sort of taken out of the box. This one had a screen protector put on it. This one did not, but I don't have a single scratch, not even the micro scratches or the fine ones that you see in sunlight. So far, I haven't noticed a single one. But compared with the 15 Pro Max, the 15 Pro Max, I have a ton of scratches on just from using it for a year. You can see all of the scratches in the bottom right. There's gouges in the screen, and I use this no differently than any of the other phones. So in general, it just has not held up as well with the previous generations, and I think Apple really fixed that with the current generation, so that's great to see. So it's held up well. I haven't really dropped it. I don't have a single dent or ding on the frame. And the same is true on all of my phones for the 16 generation. They seem to hold up just a little bit better for some reason. I don't know if it's the coating or something else, but I haven't had any wear around the overall camera on this one. I am experiencing it a little bit on the Pro Max phone from setting it down. You can see there. So there's a little bit of wear there, but nothing major, and that's just from setting it down. But if you have a case on it, again, it will protect it. But if you want to protect your phone, of course, just put a case on it and a screen protector. And to keep your personal identity safe, today's sponsor, Incogni, has you covered. Finding someone's personal information online has become increasingly simple and can reveal personal information you don't really want others to know. There are data brokers trying to gather as much information about you as possible, with whole teams dedicated to gathering and selling your personal information. Incogni helps you remove your personal data online so it can no longer be exploited by data brokers and others. Within minutes of signing up for Incogni with my own information, such as email addresses, home address, and phone numbers, Incogni identified 10 websites and had already sent removal requests. Now, after a couple months of using Incogni, they've sent 305 requests and completed 259 of them, with 46 of them still in progress. When Incogni has successfully verified removal, you can see everything done in your activity list, from different graphs to things they've sent, in progress, completed, and time saved. I used to try and remove this data myself, and it would take hours. Incogni does that work for you, saving you a ton of time, and I genuinely recommend you try it out and get all your information out of others' hands and back into your own. To try it for yourself risk-free and with a 30-day money-back guarantee, check out the link in the description and use code ZOLOTECH to get 60% off an annual plan. Thanks again to Incogni for sponsoring this video. Now, when it comes to the overall reception of this phone, well, it seems to be better than last year. We have better 5G connectivity, Wi-Fi seems to be nice and fast, and just the overall experience as far as staying connected to a phone call seems to be much better, at least in my experience. That's true on the 16 Pro and the 16 Pro Max. Now, of course, with this one, weight is even better because it's smaller than the 16 Pro Max. So it just feels a little bit better in your hand. It's easier to manage, and I can easily wrap my fingers around this one. I can on the 16 Pro basically, but to wrap my fingers around this makes this very easy to use, as I can just swipe from left to right and cover the entire display. So it just makes it much better with the overall weight. When it comes to battery, well, that is one area you're sacrificing going from the Pro Max to this phone, but that's because you've got a smaller phone with a smaller battery, but it's not too bad. Now, this phone has not been my main phone, but I took my wife's phone to take a look at it to see what kind of battery life she was getting on her phone. This has been protected from day one with a case. This is just an Apple case, and you'll see she has the silver variant here. So this one is pristine. She doesn't put anything on the lenses. It's been in great shape, and let's go ahead and unlock it. This one also has had a screen protector on it from day one. You can see there's some dust there, but no damage whatsoever. And if we go into settings and battery health, she has 43 cycles with 100% battery capacity. If we take a look at overall battery use, she is an average user, not a heavy user of this, uses a Mac regularly as well, and keeps the brightness on auto. It's currently on halfway just for the video. But if we take a look at yesterday, she had 2 hours and 19 minutes of screen active time, 5 hours and 33 minutes of screen idle time, and used about 50% of her battery. The day before, yesterday really, 1 hour and 59 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours of screen idle time, and used under 50% of her battery. So it's actually holding up very well, probably about 5 to 6 hours of screen on time if she was to use it throughout the day. This goes on a charger at night, a wireless charger, and then just stays there. And you can actually see that in the battery graph. So if we go back into the main graph here, you'll see that it was on hold due to charging. Then it bumped up a little bit and will hold around 80% until the morning. So it's on optimized battery charging, and she just leaves it alone. And she has the optimized battery charging on, not the charge limit. So that's what's just set up by default, and she hasn't touched it since. So it's been getting her through the day. I haven't heard any complaints with the latest updates, iOS 18.1.1, and of course with that version we get Apple Intelligence. However, the overall benefit is really hit or miss depending on who you ask at this point. You've got the nice Siri animation, and you'll see for whatever reason it didn't work there. Let's turn that back on. It was on earlier, and give it a second here. She turned that off before I turned it back on, and it's something she doesn't find that useful. I personally find it great for certain things, such as notification summaries, but in general, Apple Intelligence will get much better over time with the new Siri 2.0 coming sometime next year as well. Now, the display this year hasn't really changed very much, but it continues to be a great display, goes down to 1 Hertz now, and has great viewing angles. It has very great brightness. It works great outside. Now, sometimes it will pull the brightness down if it's getting warm, and that typically goes along with the camera. If you're using the camera, sometimes it will pull that down if it gets a little bit warm. But the display still does have PWM, but it's at a high enough rate still where I don't think it will bother most people, especially above about 60% brightness. So you can't really see flickering of the display under even 240 frames per second, but if you adjust the overall shutter speed of the camera, you can see it a little bit here. So you can see that it's actually flickering to control brightness. The faster it flickers, the brighter it is. The slower, the lower the brightness. But in general, it doesn't bother my eyes, but it does bother some people. And as I mentioned before, the cameras seem to be pretty good. I have heard some complaints about some of the adjustments that are being done, but one of the great things is with this camera, you've got all of the different adjustments. So if you want to change the look, you can do that. And there's certain applications now where you can modify it, where it takes out all of the processing from Apple. So that's something that's much better. If you really want to modify this, you can. If you want blue to maybe be a little bit more vibrant or have some more saturation, you can adjust this however you'd like and then leave it as a sort of a default or just add it every time. So that's got undertones, this one, and now it looks like how I would want it to look on my display. So depending on how you want to use it, you can really adjust it this time around for yourself and what you want. So that's great for most people, especially if you don't really like the sort of default look you get out of the camera itself. Now, of course, we have the 5x optical zoom this time around. So If you want to zoom in, the same you can on the Pro Max phones, you definitely can do that this time using that lens. So there's really no compromises this year with the overall camera. You can zoom way in if you want to. Of course, you've got all of the other ones where you can go ultra wide. You can change the millimeter lens look here up to 35 millimeters. 2 times, 5 times, and then of course digital zoom past that to 25 times. So you've got all the same exact features you get with the Pro Max in a more compact package. So that's really a great thing about this. So you're really not compromising like you were before. When it comes to daily use, well, for me, it's not really intensive tasks. It's more along the lines of camera, some photos, maybe some journal editing, checking email, checking YouTube, and things like that. I don't really play too many games on it, but it's great for that with game mode. It does typically get a little bit warm from that. It's a little bit warm right now, and that is an issue for some people. So in general, this seems to get a little bit hotter than I would like. I think they've pulled that back a little bit, but it typically gets warm when you're using Apple Intelligence features. So if you're using the Siri options, visual intelligence on some of the betas, or even just the writing tools, sometimes it gets a little bit warm when you're photo editing and more. So it's definitely designed for this, but I would like to see some better thermals next year where maybe they have some better things such as a vapor chamber or more that other manufacturers use. The speakers are basically the same we had before, so no compromises there. And overall performance is, of course, super fast with the latest processor. So basically, I've noticed that this feels really a lot like what we had with the iPhone 15 Pro Max with just a little bit more refinement. We've got a slightly bigger screen, some better battery life, a faster processor, and of course on the Pro, we've got the 5 times optical zoom. So it is a significant upgrade from the 15 Pro, but if you're wondering if you should wait for the iPhone 17 next year, whether they have a new slim model, the 17 Pro or 17 Pro Max, well, at this point, if you want something that you just want an upgrade, maybe you're on the iPhone 13, you definitely would benefit from upgrading as you get to use Apple Intelligence. However, a lot of that stuff is still sort of a work in progress and in beta, so you may want to hold out as far as that goes. However, if you're on an older phone and you don't care about the latest design, this is going to be a great phone for you. If you do care about designs and redesigns, well, I would expect a larger change with the iPhone 17 than we've seen in a little while. Of course, we have titanium and the new buttons, but we could see something a little bit different with an overall design. It's sort of what we're going to expect, though, for years. We've got the dynamic island, we've got basically the same iPhone, and the OS changes, but the overall design of the cameras and things will probably stay the same for years to come. Unless there's some sort of radical redesign plan that we haven't heard of yet, we're basically got the phone, it works as expected, and the operating system is what's going to be upgraded here. So at this point, if you're wanting a new phone, it's great to upgrade, but if you want the latest and greatest, well, we're a little ways away now, probably 9 months or more from the next iPhone. So if you can wait, you'll definitely be benefiting from that. But other than that, I always say if you can get a good deal, you may want to get your hands on one now. So there's not much more to talk about with the overall phone. It's fast, will be future-proof for years, and it's great that you don't have to compromise. If you want the best battery life, go for the Pro Max, but it may be too large of a phone, especially with a case and screen protector. But let me know what you think of the iPhone 16 Pro so far. I think it's the best size, and I said before that last year I thought I'd switch to it, and I really would love to as far as the overall size goes, but I like the larger screen of the Pro Max just because it's easier to see, and you can, of course, sort of fit more information on it or just make text larger if you want to. I really appreciate the Pro Max size for that and the battery, but I definitely could live with this every day as well. Let me know what you think of the iPhone 16 Pro in the comments below and how it's going for you. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.